Hey everybody, welcome back to Discover Springford. I'm standing in front of Stickman Brews just outside of Royersford Borough in Limerick Township. Owners Ethan and Jim Buckman have been kind enough to allow us to do this interview on one of their off days. So why don't we get inside and see exactly how Stickman Brews is unlike any other brewery that you've been to. I'm Geoff Desiato, a local realtor, aspiring actor, and transplant to the Springford area. And I'm on a mission to find the best that Springford has to offer. I'll be interviewing local business owners, civil servants, and other prominent members of the community to find out what makes Springford a great place to live, work, eat, and explore. I invite you to join me on my journey as I discover Springford. So welcome guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
So why don't we just dive in? I don't want to take up too much of your time. Tell me a little bit about obviously you have I would imagine a similar family background since you're related, but where you grew up, how you guys decided to go into a partnership. So I'll let whoever wants to start can jump in there.
Well, I'm the younger cousin. I grew up in Cherry Hill, actually.
Okay.
And I've been in the brewing industry for a while. And when I kind of reached a point in my career where I wanted to open up my own place, I just started talking to Jim about it, and that's where it happened. We actually started talking about the plan at another bar out near his house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where was that?
We were sitting at Casey's in Berwyn having a beer and burger, something like that. Ethan was telling me about his plan. I thought it'd be something my wife would be interested in. She's got an entrepreneurial spirit too, and we were looking to do something at the time that Ethan approached us about it. So it seemed like as good of an idea as any, particularly having somebody with a lot of experience in the brew side. There's a lot of people opening breweries now that know they want to open a brewery and then they figure everything else out. But we had everything figured out and then just had to figure out whether or not we wanted to open a brewery.
Right.
So we did it in the right order, I think.
I think so. So Ethan was... did he kind of train you in the things then, if you weren't as experienced in this arena?
Ethan handles a lot of the
Okay.
brewing, so I do some odds and ends tasks for him to help him out or to make it so he doesn't have to come in. He lives in South Philly, so so I can save him a commute. He might ask me to do an odd task here and there, but he handles 90% of the heavy lifting with the brewery side.
Okay, and then where did you grew up in the Berwyn area, or?
I grew up in Upper Darby.
Okay.
And have not lived there in quite some time, but yeah, now I live in the Wayne area right now.
So how did you get to the point where you thought you had something here? Because obviously you wanted to do it, but tell me about the moment where you took the step and you started to see the response.
We started out actually not thinking we were even going to have a brick and mortar place. So we started out considering doing something called gypsy brewing, where you essentially rent space from other breweries and just produce for production. But when we ran the numbers on that and we were kind of trying to figure out where to do it, the process was frustrating and the potential payoff was a lot smaller. So we started looking for space, and when we landed in this space in Royersford, we decided to go ahead and start trying to do it. And the response, as soon as people found out we were doing construction in this space, was almost immediate. So we knew months before we opened that people were going to be really receptive to it, because everybody in the town is super friendly. People were driving by, asking us what we were doing, talking to us, trying to get to know us while we were under construction. So even before we opened the doors, we knew Royersford was going to be a good place to have the company.
Yeah, that's one of the things in the last episode, talking to Anil Dam, the president, about just how there's kind of this percolating thing happening in Royersford. It's like the next thing that's about to launch, it seems like, and to have someone said to me like, well, they got a brewery in here, so that's usually like the first step. Like once you get a brewery into a town, like it brings people. So
it's a good step.
Yeah, that's very good. And now, why brewing?
Why brewing?
Yeah.
Well, I started brewing as a way to make money in college. And I didn't like college very much, and I did like brewing, so I dropped out of college and did that instead. I got a full-time job at a brewery when I was 19, dropped out of college, and just kind of wanted to see where it would lead. And 7 years later, I'm here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So what was the first step where you kind of, now I'm sure you established your own skill set, your own, I would imagine with brewing, there's a specific taste or flavor that you're going for to set yourself apart.
Sure. When I started brewing, I worked for a couple companies out in Pittsburgh, and simultaneously I was working full-time at a German brewery where I was learning all about lager production and classic European brewing techniques, and I was working part-time at another brewery where I was managing the barrel aging program and the wild and sour beers, and I kind of started mixing those two techniques together really early in my career, in the first year or two that I had been doing this, and that's kind of what we end up with here.
Right.
So
that's really cool. So tell me a little bit about the operations of the business. When did you guys officially open the doors? And
so we opened in December of 2015. We're open 5 days a week from Wednesday through Sunday, and the hours differ a little bit, but Fridays and Saturdays we're open until midnight. And we bring bands in, we bring food trucks. We don't do our own food, but we have food trucks here Fridays, cool. Saturdays, and most Sundays, but Fridays and Saturdays 100% of the time, unless there's a cancellation or anything.
Right.
But so we'll do that. We'll bring bands in. We'll occasionally host our own kind of parties. We've done like a themed like muscle night where we've had ticketed events that we've had here. We usually do a party every year around the time of our anniversary in December. This year, I think it's the 9th or something. We're doing our anniversary party December 9th this year. And so that's kind of it. I mean, people come in, they hang out. When there's football games, we put football games on. But other than that, we don't do a lot with the televisions and stuff like that. If it's not football, if it's another sport, we kind of limit it to like that sport's maybe their biggest games, their playoffs, their finals, something like that. Other than that, we'll put football on Sundays. And that's pretty much it. People come in, you can see over here, we sell 4-packs in cans, so you can grab things for takeout. You can bring your growler, get it filled. We have flights, we sell wine. We have tons of board games. We encourage people to come here, and we encourage people to come in here and just sit down and have a good time, relax. And, the phones are a part of life, right? You're not going to put it down, especially if it's parents and they have a sitter, but we do we don't have we don't have free Wi-Fi. We don't really encourage that. People sit around and just streaming things or doing things on their phone when they could be sitting here having a conversation or playing games. And a lot of times people do it. People sit at this bar and they'll just end up talking to the person next to them, which
that's great.
Doesn't really happen when you have 14 TVs to watch, because it's a lot easier just to play like, I'm not, to be a lot more unapproachable when people think you're fixated on something, oh, I'm really into this game, I don't want to be bothered. But when you're not, you're just talking. You're talking to the bartenders. The bartenders here are either, my brothers, friends, things like that. Everybody, the bartenders come in, they know a huge majority of the people's names, and that's kind of like Springford, right? Like, it's a small town. People like that about it. It's small in some ways, but we also have a nuclear power plant and an airport, and the big shopping mall up there in Saratoga. Yeah. So there's a lot going on here, but it still kind of has a small town feel, and this helps. When people come in, I know this guy's name. Oh, hey, how you doing, Geoff? Come on in. Yeah. So people really like that about the place, and that's one of the comments that we get all the time, that the staff is really friendly. The place is like a very relaxed atmosphere. We do allow people to bring their kids in. We try not to, overdo it with that. Yeah, right. We like kids. We don't like entire teams of children coming from a birthday party. But for the most part, people really do a nice job. Their kids are well behaved. They watch them. It's a good place for families. It's a good place for just adults to come and hang out.
Well, I think it's awesome that you guys have like the board games and stuff. Like, was that the vibe that you've established here? Was that something you thought about before you even opened the doors? Like, you wanted to limit the screens, limit the non-social interaction?
That was something that we did. We kind of acquiesced to the one screen, but the one screen is really just a projector, right? When we're not using it, it's gone. It's a blank wall, right? Yeah. So we kind of said, hey, there are some times that, that it would be helpful to have a TV on. You know, Sundays for football.
Right.
Sundays can be slower if people are out and about doing things. So there's not really a lot of harm in letting somebody watch a football game, or if it's a big,
Sure.
you know, the NCAA, the March Madness, you know, where nobody follows basketball all year, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden people that don't know one player's name on a team are very interested because they filled out a block pool.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know,
right.
so that kind of happens. So we said, it can't really hurt to put it on. A lot of times we'll put things on even without the sound too,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really disrupt anyone. For the football, we'll have sound on, but a lot of times for the different games, if it's a different event, we'll just turn on the projector and not even use the sound. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a nice balance for everybody.
And I would think that having it located in a central spot, that it encourages that communication still. Like, you know, everybody is watching the same thing.
Everyone's watching
Instead
the
of
same
it being
thing.
like 50 different things and people staying, you know, isolated onto themselves. Because I know that, you know, if I go to a bar and watch a game, it's usually only when it's a big thing, and it's because I can't go to the game myself, but I want to be among other people that are rooting and cheering
It's more
for the
fun
same
to watch
thing.
it with a lot
Totally.
of people, right?
Yeah, so that's really, I think that helps.
So everyone's cheering for the same thing. We don't have like the direct TV package where these guys over here cheering for the Eagles, and these guys are over here cheering for the New England Patriots,
Yeah, right.
and over, you know,
God forbid.
whatever TV you're looking at, right? You know, so
Yeah, and it is cool. We do get a pretty spirited atmosphere
Yeah.
on Sundays.
Oh,
it seems
yeah.
like, do you get a lot of like, because it seems like you guys are purists for in the sense of the craft of brewing, just in the overall vibe just seems to be very true to what I've come to experience breweries being. Not that you are copying, or you definitely have your own distinct feel, but it seems authentic and natural. So I think that comes across in what you're presenting here for sure.
Yeah, we try to the whole concept of the brand, down to the name and the labels, where we're just drawing stick figures on things, down to how the place is set up and everything like that, is to kind of strip the pretension out of beer. You get a lot of guys who act like they're curing cancer because they learned how to brew a beer.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is kind of make beer democratic again. It used to be that like all the normal guys went and drank a Budweiser at a bar, and then you had this craft beer come in, and for some reason everybody acted like if I spend more money to brew beer, I can only let a certain class of people in here, and that's just not how we're trying to present the brand.
Right.
This is trying to make craft beer as democratic as every other kind of beer used to be. So
That's awesome. And so I would imagine that's kind of I was going to ask, you know, the etymology of the name and the branding, and you kind of summed it up pretty well. Like, so what in the specific, you know, story of how you decided to go Stickman Brews, you know, who came up with that, and how did that kind of come about?
So the initial idea for the brand came from when I was working at a brewery in Pittsburgh, and I'd carried it around forever. And me and some other brewers I worked with were out at a bar, kind of making fun of how ridiculous some of the beer labels were. I won't call out the specific brewery that inspired
it's like
it.
the
but-
Mona Lisa. Like,
Yeah,
they're trying to like
it
really
looked-
make it
It's
like
getting really over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were making fun of them, and I said if I ever got to open my brewery, this was, you know, when I was actually 20 at the time.
Yeah.
If I ever get to open a brewery, I'm drawing stick figures on everything because it can't. And Jim and Kate are those kind of people too. So when I told them this idea I had, they loved it, and we just kind of ran with it.
That's awesome. And I mean, I've seen it. You guys are very involved in the various events that are going in. So what, other than just the available space, was there anything about the Royersford area specifically that kind of even got you looking out this way, especially not being from the area?
Well, there was a pretty good void in the market out
Right.
here, so that's always a good place to start.
Yeah.
But more so than that, there was a void in the market, but there was also a very good town that was being. It wasn't just there's voids in other markets
right.
too. It doesn't mean you want to move there. So it was a void in a very underserved market with people that are really looking for better quality products than they're accustomed to getting out
Right.
here. And quite frankly, that's the way it's been. So, you know, the knock about this area has always been, oh, there's nowhere good to do this. There's nowhere good to do that. And, you know, that's it's not even slowly changing. It's now quickly changing.
exactly
But for a
right.
while, it was pretty slow. You know, we were, 15 miles out, 422, and it was like, who wants to deal with that? You know,
Right.
but, when you look around, you look at the demographics, you look at the makeup of the area, you look at all of the large employers, you look at the fact that there's people with very good jobs, there's people that earn a good living, and they don't want to spend their money on garbage. They appreciate better things, so they want to go, and they're not looking for the $10 plate that's 2 meals in one, so you bring half of it home. So I think that because it was an underserved area, and because it's such a great area, and because there's a lot of very educated people here, there's a lot of skilled tradesmen around here, but there's a lot of people around here that appreciate what we're doing. They appreciate some of the better, some of the nice restaurants that we have. They're doing a good job there. We do have some chain restaurants and stuff out here, and that's kind of what the area had been known for. Oh, that's all it is. Yeah. And that's really changing because while we do have them, there's a place for them.
Yeah.
There's a place. There's always a place for that. They're good places for families because they encourage that, and sometimes more fine dining or higher end places don't really encourage that because people are spending a lot of money and they don't feel like you should be interrupted.
Yeah.
So you have a lot going on in an area like this, and it's very good. It's a very good place to open a business. The township that we've had, this is Limerick Township, so. We dealt exclusively with them for all of our permitting to open. They were beyond exceptional to deal with. Wow. This is a very pro-business town. If they can help you, to get your business open, you'll open a business out here.
That's
if you do what you're supposed to do, if you tell them what your plans are and you articulate it in writing and you have the proper planning, they don't want to get in your way. Sometimes you hear stories about townships that are uncooperative or whatever. This isn't one of them.
That's great. That's really encouraging, and I think that. As you had mentioned before, one of the things that attracted me to this area was exactly what you said, was we're in close proximity to so much, but it maintains that true, all-American, small-town feel. And I think it's a lot due to the people that are here. They're very proud, Rofo proud, and all that stuff.
Well, they are, and we're 15 minutes from King of Prussia. So in King of Prussia, you can go there, and I can say this: I live right there.
Yeah.
You can go down to the zoo there, and you can find it's like Noah's Ark. There's two of everything there.
Right.
And there's no shortage of shopping, retail, restaurants, fine dining. It's all there, right? But we're 15 minutes from it.
Yeah.
But in some ways, when you get off the exit, when you get off at that Royersford exit, you feel like you're 50 miles away from something like that, so everything is accessible. It's a little more difficult when you're commuting, right? It's hard to get, west and at night and east in the morning, but, for what this area has to offer, how much, I know you're a real estate agent, so what the housing costs here, and what the housing costs on the main line.
Exactly, and
we're getting all the same amenities. We're getting all the same, high-end features that the main line has. We just, it's just we're a few years behind them and slowly catching up. So, it's in no time at all. We'll have all of those restaurants. We'll have those things. I mean, I just think about what Limerick Township itself has, and it's like for a small town, it has a lot of things going on in it, if you think about it.
Yeah, we went to the Limerick Community Day, and that park there and everyth's just massive.
The park's tremendous. They're doing an event there in September.
Yeah.
And it's a local for the local Rotary Association, and we're going to be there in September 23rd.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll be there on September 23rd in Mandarack Park. It'll be a big setup. They'll have a band. They'll have bands playing all day and music. We'll be there pouring beer. There's a couple other breweries. There's some wineries. But that's what you have. So, you have Rotarians here, you have Optimist clubs, you have things like that here, and you still have people getting together. They do it, the Optimist Club, I think, meets at the Limerick Diner. The Rotarians meet, maybe Anna Marie's, they meet somewhere around here. But that's the thing, and they feature different businesses. You have the the SPRINGFORD Chamber of Commerce, and they'll go around and they'll try and do something at everyone's location and kind of, spread the love in the business. And that's kind of what this is. This is it's beyond just a town. It's more like a community,
right? And that's one of the things my wife and I noticed right away, and we said, this seems like a great place to bring our kids. I have a 9 and a 7-year-old, and we could go on. The school district obviously is very highly spoken about in this area and everything. So we could spend a whole other. I'll save that for another episode when I talk to someone from the school board.
Yeah, and you're the principal there at the high
right.
school, because the school district's great. All the services, the police, the fire department, everyone we've dealt with. We honestly, we are not really the type of people to hold back. If I had a bad experience, I'd call it out.
Yeah.
You're not going to have one out here unless you're looking for one.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like people genuinely want the town to succeed. So if someone's coming here, like you guys from the outside, and seeing the value that this town has, they're gonna, not roll out the red carpet, but for lack of a better term, they're not going to get in your way. They're not going to put up obstacles you to do that.
They're very encouraging of new business. They process your permit applications, your use and occupant. They work through that as fast as they can. They do their due diligence, but they're very expedient about it.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I have friends who are opening breweries in other townships. It's taken them 18 months. It's taken them 2 years to get all the permitting process done. We were, from the time we took possession of this building, it took us 5 months to get open.
Wow.
So, they really are absolutely great.
That's crazy. Now, what do you happen to know what was here before you guys? Just out of curiosity.
This was actually the old Sly Fox production facility.
Okay.
Before we took it over.
Yeah. Oh, wow. How about that?
In the front, there was Sly Fox had a brew pub. They moved out, and a couple of their employees, I think, took it over. It didn't make it as a business. It became a new restaurant. Didn't really make it as a business. That happens. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. So the front is vacant right now. It's pretty large. It kind of worked out for Sly Fox because they were making their own beer. It's kind of a large restaurant for the area, just as a standalone place because it holds a couple hundred people. It's pretty big for a mom and pop type place. So we don't know what will happen with that, but this space was perfectly suited for us. So we were able to move in. We had to do some modifications, but the concrete, the all the work in the floors, everything was kind of set up to be a brewery. It had a loading dock, had a parking lot. Here's the thing that you'll hear with breweries all the time. They all go into huge spaces, 5, 7, 10,000 square foot spaces with 10 parking spaces.
Yeah.
If it was
a main street,
if it was an office building, it'd never be permitted. So we all get these big warehouse spaces, but we're one of the few, honestly, that I know of that have that have 200 plus parking spaces in their lot.
That's awesome. Weyerbacher.
Yeah, people just roll up. Yeah, people roll up here. They love the fact that they can do this, park here. We have Phoenixville down the street. They have a lot of breweries, and it's great. It's a cool town too. It's great. But for us, when we came in here, we saw this was set up as a brewery. We saw that it had a loading dock. We saw it had a lot of parking. We could have moved to Phoenixville, and that would have been a good choice too. But it just would have been different. We kind of liked the space out here.
Yeah.
We thought that our customers would really appreciate the fact that that they could easily park here.
Yeah. For sure, and there's something to be said for being one of 10 versus the one in a town. You know what I mean? Going back to what you had said before about, they were pining for something like this in this area. There was an audience for it, but there was no place for them to
Absolutely
come.
An audience for it. And you know what? A lot of those folks, they might have gone to, they might have gone over to Phoenixville before that. They might have gone out to any of the other area places, and they were all good choices. But this was a pretty big void right here, considering that in all of Limerick Township, we were the only ones.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty amazing.
And it's nice, because it's just another thing that Limerick has, add to their list, because they do. They have a lot. There's a lot going on here, and it has a small town feel, but it also has a very pro business feel to it. So people are encouraged to move their businesses out here, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a manufacturing facility,
right?
And the nice thing about it is, we found employees out in this area, so there's a good labor pool out here, and so really, I would, anybody that's looking, I'll throw my plea right to the camera. You're looking to start a business, and you feel like there's an opportunity in Limerick Township, I would say explore it because you don't. It's like my father would always say, you don't ask, you don't know.
Yeah.
So,
and I think like what you were saying, when people look at it's all chains and stuff, I think that one of the things that chains does to serve a town is it brings people there that otherwise would have never gone, and then they see what the town has locally.
Mm-hmm.
What is unique to the town. So sometimes you kind of have to cast a wide net and put a Target and a this and a that, and then people drive by and see, oh wow, look at that little cute little place over there. Look at this little like antique shop. I didn't know idea this stuff was out here.
Right.
And then for the people that like myself and my wife, that's what we really like. I mean, like it's great to run the Giant. Sometimes it's great to do that, but to be able to drive past and see small business after small business after small business after small business that are thriving, that's like a huge testament.
And that's Limerick,
to an
right?
area.
We're just dotted with small businesses.
Yeah.
There's big ones, but they're kind of confined to areas.
Yeah, right. It's like
know?
those big shopping centers that they stay unto themselves, and then you kind of you go into the town and you see a little bit more of the character and the tradition and the history. So.
But Royersford itself, you go into there, into Spring City. It's no big. It's all mom and pop type businesses. It's all people kind of carving out a business out of an area that was 10 years ago you couldn't pay somebody to move in. And now people are taking notice and they're saying there is opportunity there. There's a lot of people working. There's a lot of employers that pay people very well. There's people with higher middle income and above earnings, and you can't they're not going to really settle for hot dogs. They spent a lot of time, they went to school, they didn't get those good jobs just because there's no one else to hire. They got them because they educated themselves, they picked up specific skill sets, and because of that, these are people that probably have more discerning taste in a way, and if you want to cater to them, it's also a good warning because we do our best every day to Ethan does with the brew team, and to put out the best possible product every day, because this is no longer the place where you can take advantage and you can just open kind of like a lousy place and just think because there wasn't anything else out here that you're going to have the run of the lot. You'll go out of business, and quite frankly you should, because if you're going to treat people like that and think that they're lucky to get what they get, then you're going to get what you get too, so exactly, we provide them a good product, a nice atmosphere to hang out, and they've responded really well to it.
Yeah, and there are several case in point of what you just described about people just kind of on a whim starting something, and then a couple months later
going on autopilot and just thinking, it's Royersford, what do they know? What do they have out here? They don't have stuff. I'm from Philly, we have this and that and the other. Well, you might, but it doesn't mean these people don't know anything. They do. They know more than anybody is giving them credit for, because there's a lot of opportunity still to be had here, and yet I turn around and there's another guy who wants I'm opening in King of Prussia, I'm opening in Phoenixville. They're all good places, but the rent is 5 times what it is here. The red tape is 5 times what it is here, and this is a place you can move into. You can find an affordable space. If it's your first business, it's a great place to do that. You provide people with a good quality product or service, and you'll be in business a long time.
I find it really interesting that the idea was percolating for so long for you specifically, and to have been able to kind of have such a clear vision so long ago and be able to bring it. What does that feel like?
Well, it's awesome. I mean, there's kind of 2 phases to it, right? The first thing is there's this kind of surrealness to it still. When I was 16, I had a business class in high school where I wrote a paper about how I wanted to open a brewery. And
sure, mom and dad were so proud.
The first legal beer I ever had was at a bar called Mad Mex in Pittsburgh, and the Mad Mex in Philly was carrying. They're not open currently, but they were carrying our beer. So there's little things like that are very surreal, but at the same time, like we kind of mentioned earlier, I also worked really hard for a really long time to work up in the industry. So when we actually started operating this place, I had been a head brewer for about 3 years at different companies at that point. So my day-to-day job didn't really change all that much. In my opinion, that's kind of how it should be if you open a business, right? I don't think that opening a business with no prior experience in the industry is necessarily a good idea, right? So there's the part of it that is still feels pretty cool and surreal every day, where it's like, well, I can't believe I have my own place and I'm working with my family and everything like that. And then there's part of it too where it's like, well, this is the job I should be doing at this point in my career. So
you put in the work and you're seeing the trajectory of your life was geared this way. And so I definitely agree with that there's a lot of people that they have an idea and they jump on the idea, but they don't put in the behind the scenes work that no one really and then people see this business pop up and they go, oh, look at this, overnight. How about, and you're like, overnight? I've been doing this for a long time, know?
Yeah, we get a lot of guys who have opened businesses who are home brewers, and a lot of them are successful. Some of them are not, but they, even if they are successful, they spend 3 to 4 years really struggling to figure out what they're doing, and they, we were able to hit the ground running because we all knew what we were doing. Jim and Kate had all the relevant experience they needed to help get the business open and get the business side of things running, and I was able to hit the ground running with the brewery, and I think that's the way it should be.
Right. That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing your story. Just as we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, I'd like to ask this question from both of you. Tell me one lesson, either from a past employer or a teacher or something like that, a lesson that you said, if I ever get a shot, I'm going to remember this lesson. Either a positive, like where someone said, always, never burn bridges, or a negative where you were like, I'm never going to treat somebody the way that guy treated me. Like any examples you care about sharing of like a life lesson that you learned along the way, whether from a parent, a teacher, a coworker, an employer, that you've held with you and tried to apply in the business here at Stickman Brews. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but
it's human capital. So,
yeah.
No, that's an easy one. Before you were finished saying it, I already knew the answer. So, the way I look at it is, I see a lot of businesses out there. You look at big business. Look at fast food places. They all pay people the same amount of money. It just creates an environment where people come and go for 25 cents an hour. There's no loyalty, and the employees shouldn't know any loyalty, because there's a lot of big business in America. They treat people very poorly. They pay people very poorly, and they complain bitterly when legislation is introduced to get them to maybe help put some of their poverty wage level earners on par with the rest of America.
Yeah.
And it's, oh no, that's going to drive everyone out of business, or drive everyone out of business. Well, that's funny, but the way I look at it is, we want to be the employer. We are the employer in the brewing industry. We don't pay people in cash. It's a real business. Yeah. We don't. We offer people paid time off, health insurance. You have to treat people well when you're in business. Right. If you want to be an absentee owner and let your business be run by teenagers, you're not going to find a sympathetic shoulder to cry on when your business fails. So for me, it's always treat people well. I want people to come here. We're looking for, when we hire, we try and find the best people we can. When people leave here, we only want it to be because maybe they've taken a position or there's something that we couldn't offer them. Ethan's our head brewer, right? If somebody's aspiring to do that, they can't do it here, not right now. So if they have a chance to do it somewhere else, they're going to get all of our support and our congratulations, and they're going to move on. Mm-hmm. But other than that, generally you have to treat people well. So we aspire to be a brewery in the area that pays people the best, that has the best, not just in the compensation, but quality of life. Respecting the fact that they have things going on outside of this place, right, that they're adults and they need health insurance, that they need time off because they may have children. And even if they don't, that's not a prerequisite to needing time off.
That's true.
So I look at the way that big businesses are run, and I kind of find it appalling in a way, because I find that all they do is they all want to pay people the same. They all want to give the same benefits, and none of them create a culture that is supposed to foster any type of buy-in or ownership on the employee's part. And that's what we have here. And because Ethan has developed a close relationship with the brewers, I work with our salespeople and the other outside staff and the other vendors that we work with. And because of that, we're able to do more with less. We're able to get people to buy in, and we're able to get them to work harder for us than they would if they're just dragging themselves through just a regular job. Right. This is something that we hope will lead to something for them. They're going to learn a lot under Ethan if they want to move on and apply those skills in another state, at another brewery. If they have a chance to move up, then they do that. Right. But the biggest lesson, the biggest thing I feel in business is, you can't treat people like everyone else, because that's not enough of a reason for people to buy into your business. It's not really enough of a reason for them to care.
Right.
And all it's going to do is just create a revolving door of employees. 1 week you're training this guy, and the next week he left for another, another $25 a week. Yeah. It doesn't speak a lot for these large businesses. And you wonder sometimes how they got so big, treating people so poorly, because the human capital, that element of their business, particularly in retail, I mean, it's so important, and yet the complaints, they never stop. You go into the big box stores, and that's what you hear.
Yeah, so that's what I struggled with, which is why I'm self-employed now. Well, I was one of those many minions or cogs in a giant wheel, and
and if you're gone today, it's like being on the front lines in a war. You get so desensitized to it. If you're the manager, oh, this guy quit. Oh well, who's next?
Yeah, right.
What do we got next? And it's just putting people into a meat grinder and hoping some of them come out the other end intact. So that's what I would say. You have to treat people well, and you have to hire good people. If you do, you'll get you'll get an exceptional value from them, no matter what you're paying them.
That's great.
I was actually going to say almost the exact same thing. I spent
Great
a lot
minds.
of time. Yeah, we talk about it a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I spent all of my career mostly, and this isn't to trash. I know other brewers I've worked for are going to see this.
Yeah.
This isn't to trash other people that I've worked for, but the culture in the brewing industry is such that everybody knows that you want to be in the job.
Right.
So they pay you as little as possible. They make you work insane hours. They don't offer you any benefits, primarily because they know you don't have a lot of options about where to work. We've kind of taken that consideration out of the equation. We pay our people as much as we can afford to pay them. We offer them benefits. We offer them paid time off. We allow them creative control. Our assistant brewer, Brendan, who is absolutely incredible at what he does, came here and he gets kind of free range. He has all these side projects he gets to work on. Our new cellarman, Kyle, is training to get those same privileges. We make sure everybody has creative input. We make sure everybody is paid fairly and treated fairly. When they need time off, they get time off. When they need to take a vacation, they're still getting, they can use their paid time, so they're not in poverty for 2 weeks because they wanted to take a vacation. We make sure that our employees aren't living paycheck to paycheck. We make sure that our employees have input in what's going on here. Because I learned pretty quickly that not giving people those things, it made me not want to work very hard, and it made me not always do the best job I could because I knew I was being taken advantage of.
Right.
I actually walked out of one brewery I was working at because after working there for a year, doing a lot of profitable work for them, they offered me a quarter an hour raise, and I just left.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen here.
Right.
And more than that, it's not just a dollars and cents calculation. I don't think either of us could really bring ourselves to mistreat people.
Right.
And that's kind of the biggest thing for us here.
Yeah, breweries really do have the potential to be the sweatshop of the 21st century.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses like this, but like Ethan said, some of these really incredible minds out here that figured out how to make beer decided that because there's other people that want to learn how to make beer, that they can take advantage of them, treat them poorly, pay them poorly, and basically make them, go unpaid every time they get sick.
Yeah.
If they get injured, if something happens at work, their employees off the books, and it really is a disgrace in some ways. And we're not speaking for all of them, but there's quite a few of them still out there that kind of give you an envelope full of cash, and boy, you're lucky to be there, and we kind of look at it like we're lucky to have the people that we have. Yeah, they're lucky to be here too because they're learning what they want to learn, but really we're lucky to find them because sometimes in business you have to go through a lot of employees that don't work out before you find the ones that do. So when we find ones that do, it's terrific for both us and them because it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's kind of like the perfectly symbiotic relationship where no one's getting taken advantage of and everyone's getting what they need.
That's great.
And that's kind of what we try and do here. So any of these employers out here, if you're struggling, you don't know why your business is failing, take a look at how you treat people.
Right.
Start there, and maybe you'll have an answer.
I think that's such a good continuity from like the top down as far as the branding. Like you had said, like there wasn't going to be pretension, there wasn't going to be this like la-di-da attitude, but like it's almost like everyone here embodies that little stick man. You know what I mean? Like there's it's not like
everyone does.
The honcho, I dictate. It's a very communal.
No, we're just we're a regular bunch of guys.
Yeah.
There's no, there's regular men and women here. There's no titles. There's no nothing. I'm Jim. He's Ethan. Yeah. There's none of this. I'm afraid to go talk to the boss. I'm afraid to ask for this. You want something, you need it. And that's kind of what we do, and that pays off. And it's pretty sad for people that have been in business a long time that can't just figure out that basic principle that. The golden rule isn't just something that applies, for school children. Right. It applies when you own a business. If you wouldn't want to be treated like that as an employee, why on earth would you think that this person would? Right. They're beneath you. So we all of our employees we're equals, and we share in the successes or failures of this place together.
That's good. Well, I wish you guys continued success. That you continue to have that human capital just overflowing. So as we wrap up, why don't you guys let the viewers know how to get in touch with you, your website, all that, the social media, all that stuff, just so they can check you out. And we'll have it at the bottom of the video, obviously, for people to click out to, but I'll give you guys a chance to plug the business a little
It's
bit.
the business Stickman Brews. We're at 326 North Lewis Road in Royersford, PA, Suite 240, around the back. All our social media is at Stickman Brews. We're not really active on Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram, and our website is stickmanbrews.com. You can also find our beer anywhere between Philadelphia and Lancaster and all points north. So keep an eye out for us at your favorite local bar as well.
Sweet.
And if your favorite local bar isn't serving Stickman, ask them why not.
Yeah, there you go. For sure. And if they say, I've never heard of it, you can say, well, let me tell you all about it. Or share this video with them, and they'll know all about it.
There you go. Perfect.
So I've got to plug my own thing here, too, at the same time. So thanks, Jim. What a pleasure.
Thanks, Geoff.
Love talking to
Pleasure
you guys.
to have you.
Thanks a lot.
I'll be sure to be coming in and play some board games.
Absolutely.
Bring my kids in, too.
You're always welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for the next episode, and be sure to visit Stickman Brews. Owners Jim and Ethan Buckman are ready for us inside. They've been kind enough to agree to have us here. So welcome, guys. Thanks for having me in your event. Sorry, let's start over.
Go back in the car, please.
Owners Ethan and Jim Buckman are gracious. I probably should spit my gum out. Do you have a trash can?
Yeah.